Contrary to popular belief, people who have achieved great things in life are actually much more humble than the average person. Although more specifically, they're much more humble on their way to the top, not necessarily after they reach the top. The proof that they're much more humble than the average person is that these people are willing to fail much more often than the average person. They've got a type of intellectual humility. In this video, I will discuss 2 things that you can do to stop being afraid of failing. And then I will also discuss something that you can do to never fail in the first place. Okay, so personally, I haven't been afraid of failure from around the time I entered my mid-20s, I'd say. And I can think to 2 mindset shifts in particular that have allowed me to become like this. So the first mindset shift was that, well, nowadays with the whole self-esteem movement, we are often told that we are perfect the way we are, that we are adequate. But I stopped viewing myself as that. Instead, I view myself as inadequate rather than adequate. Because if I view myself as adequate, well, what does that mean? That means that I'm going to be resistant to any type of failure. I'm going to sugarcoat any type of failings that I'm going to have because I'm adequate. What does it mean for me to now fail at something? So by genuinely viewing myself as inadequate, that leaves me completely open to any type of change, any type of failure, any type of growth. I view myself not just as inadequate now, but I'm going to be inadequate for life. So this is for life going to keep me nothing but completely open to failings and to change. I am not scared of it at all. The second mindset shift that I had was that I got this desire to want to learn or improve as much as possible. And I realized that, okay, failure is the only way to go through. Like my desire for getting better as much as possible overruled my other desires, such as my desire to not look like a fool in front of others. I'd rather look like a fool in front of others if that means that I can actually improve so much more. And so I realized that, okay, failure it's not just necessary, but it's even more than that. So for example, we all know that you can't really grow that much without failing. Like it's almost inevitable if you want to grow and learn. Yeah, but it's even more than that. It's a great opportunity to learn because there's a saying that says you can either succeed or you can learn. So sometimes I wanted to fail on purpose so that I could rather learn and get better rather than just quote unquote succeed and be the same as I am. But it's even more than that because sometimes failure is really a shortcut to learning. It's a shortcut to improving, getting better. Because, and I don't really hear people talk about this at all, because, when you fail at something big, like the bigger it is, the more room for growth. When you fail at something big, it's usually accompanied with like real negative emotions, right? Real negative feelings, real negative emotions. There's a sting. Maybe, you think about it for the next week, whatever. Now, this type of emotional learning is actually either very beneficial or necessary in order for things to actually stick in us, for us to actually change and learn. Because if it's not for that emotional sting, that learning won't be cemented in us as much or at all. There needs to be a glue that makes it stick, that makes us change, that makes us actually remember. And that emotional glue comes from nothing other than emotions. And so this emotional sting that I now sometimes experience when I do fail at something big, I like the first thought I have nowadays is that, okay, great, because now I will not repeat this mistake ever, or I will use this to become so much better in 20 different ways. It is a real priceless gift if viewed this way. Having said all that, now let's get to the moment that you've probably been waiting for. How to never fail at anything in the first place. Okay, so if you think about the notion of failing or succeeding, what these notions depend upon is the set goal. So the goal that is set, they depend on a goal. So for example, if the goal is for you to jump 1 meter into the air, now the notion of failing or succeeding enters the picture because there's a set goal. Either succeed or you fail. So the question now is, how do you dissolve failure in this situation? Well, because it depends on the goal, it's by tweaking the goal. It's simply by changing the goal, changing the goalposts, if you will. So if you change it to something like, okay, my goal is to do my best and have the courage to jump as high as I can, then you can never fail. And so if it's not obvious, the whole point of destroying the concept of failure or how to never fail at anything, the whole purpose behind this is to get rid of that shame that's associated with failing, or to get rid of that pressure that's associated with failing. And so shifting what you view as the goal makes all the difference. And now let's run through a few examples where so-called failures are very common. As the first example, let's talk about, a typical situation where you're learning something new or you want to learn something more. Now, if you view the goal as actually learning, like your goal is to learn, your goal is not to show others how good you already are. I mean, you're here to learn. If your goal is strictly to learn, then failure after failure, there's no such, the whole concept of failure becomes meaningless, completely meaningless, because you're learning by struggling, by making mistakes, by falling short. Well, that is the definition of learning. That is your goal. So no failure is being done. Or another typical example, let's say that you want to overcome a fear. You have the fear of flying airplanes. So typically you might view it with the whole pressure of, okay, unless I can get on the plane and go on this 3-hour flight, I am failing. So if you shift that goal to just you going out there, putting yourself out there, placing that effort and making at least one step. If that's your goal, you do not fail, because the first day you can just leave your house, drive halfway to the airport and see a plane in the air in front of you taking off, and you just come back home. That's all you do. You haven't failed. And so, and in fact, you view that as a success. And so that keeps you going. That gives you that momentum. And day by day, you do more of those things with the appropriate goals that you have set. And you're just witnessing yourself getting a success after success after success. That builds that real necessary momentum. Or take any other situation really where you're doing something new, something novel. If you set the goal as really the things that are under your control, that's the key. So the goal is to focus on the things under your control, and you place in the effort, the honest effort towards those things, you can never fail. By the way, if you enjoy discussions such as these, whose goal is real, practical, personal growth, and you want to become more involved and you want to participate, then I do have a new free online community. You can find the link in the description. The idea there is for us to get together, get on a group call, and exchange ideas with each other, all for the sake of real, practical, personal growth in whatever shape or form. I do not know any other online space that provides something like this.